Evening, everybody. I would like to call to order the regular meeting of the James City County Planning Commission. It is October 2nd, 2024 at 6 p.m. Ms. Istanis, will you call the roll, please?
Dr. Albin, Mr. May, Mr. Everson.
Here.
Mr. Everson represents the Stonehouse District. Mr. Rogers.
Here.
Mr. Rogers represents the Berkeley District. Mr. Haldeman.
Here.
Mr. Haldeman is an at-large member. Mr. Polster.
Here.
Mr. Polster represents the Jamestown District. And Mr. O'Connor.
Present.
Mr. O'Connor is an at-large member and is chair of the commission. I'm Susan Istanis, Director of Planning for the county, and it's my pleasure to serve as secretary to the commission. Sitting to my left is Ms. Liz Parman, Deputy County Attorney. Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you very much. The first item on our agenda this evening is the public comment. This is time reserved for citizens to address the Planning Commission on any item that is not subject to a public hearing this evening. Is there anybody that wishes to address the Planning Commission? Seeing and hearing none, we'll move on to reports of the commission. I know that we did not have a DRC meeting and no policy committee this past month, so from there we will go to the consent agenda, which consists of the minutes of the September 4th, 2024 regular meeting. Any edits or a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
So motion to approve, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Our first public hearing tonight, SUP-24-0022, 4871 Longhill Road, Williamsburg, Montessori School. Ms. Costello, good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. Ms. Sandy Andrews of Williamsburg Montessori School has applied for a special use permit to allow for a school with an existing place of public assembly at 4871 Longhill Road. The property is currently the site of Wellspring United Methodist Church, zoned R2 General Residential and designated low-density residential on the Comprehensive Plan land use map, and is located inside the primary service area. The current size of the church is 7,647 square feet and has a mixture of gravel and paved parking spaces for a total of 105. The entrance to the site is paved and leads to the side driveway that will be utilized as a drop-off and pickup point. Most parents will utilize this feature. Some students will be bused from the school main campus on Longhill Road. The school will have a maximum of 25 children in grades 7 and 8. There will be 2 full-time teachers and 2 part-time teachers. The hours of operation will be 7:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Monday through Friday, with hours of instruction from 8:15 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. The school year begins the last week of August and ends in mid-June. All physical education activities will take place off-site, however, there may be the occasional activity outdoors. These areas would be towards the rear of the property or on the side of the building adjacent to the King of Glory Church. During the summer months, the school may operate a summer program with the hours of 8 to 5. Last year, this program was held June 17th to August 2nd. Staff finds this proposed use will not negatively impact surrounding property or development, nor is it expected to negatively impact level of service for roads or other public services. Staff finds the proposal to be consistent with the 2045 Comprehensive Plan and Zoning Ordinance. Staff recommends approval of this application subject to the condition in tonight's packet. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have, and the applicant is also available. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Costello. Any questions? Mr. Haldeman?
Hi. 2 questions. Outside of the picnic table, there's no outside additions to this project at all, or application. Is that correct?
There's going to be no additions or any kind of additional buildings, but they may do the occasional science project because behind the church there's some gardens, so there may be a classroom activity conducted in the back.
Great, thank you. My second question, condition number 6 states that if they should shut down for any reason for a year, that they would lose this SUP. What's the purpose of that?
I guess that it was to limit that any school could go in there. We put a condition, we can put, I guess, sunset clauses on some of these uses, so we felt comfortable putting that should the school go away, that SUP would go away.
What if we had another pandemic and the school had to close for a year or something like that?
And they would have to come back if the SUP were to expire, unless there was some extension of the SUPs, like the state had made condition that some SUPs were extended due to the pandemic.
Seems
But
awfully limiting, but, okay, thanks.
Can't we rephrase it? I mean, if your concern was that another person may come in there, another school entity and do it, I understand that, why you wouldn't want that to happen in a sunset for it. But if in fact you put the condition is and specify that if another entity besides the Montessori comes in, then it would lapse. We get a legal opinion?
I guess we could update the condition. I don't,
Generally, special use permits are tied to the land, not to the landowner. So I don't believe that would pass legal muster.
She
But you
isn't the
can do-
landowner.
Sorry, but during a pandemic, even if the children aren't there, I can't imagine there's no activity with the school. Is there? I mean, what would you consider no activity? That the building
if the school was no longer there, like if they decide not to use the building anymore, they relocated somewhere else, should they vacate, then that SUP would go away.
That's not what this says. I'm just trying to make sure I understand the intent.
It said, should the school use go away, then the SUP would go away. It would no longer be valid.
Your concern was it could be another school that could come in there.
So another school could come in there, but they would have to follow the same conditions. 25 or under, 25.
That's why I was looking for a change in the wording for the conditions to say, if the Montessori school, middle school, goes away in 1 year, then yes. So it's specific to the use and the person who's using it.
I think Ms. Parman said we couldn't tie it to, it wouldn't pass legal muster tying it to the entity. It would pass muster on the use, but not tying it to an entity. So if it's a school and it's being used as a school continuously without a gap of a year, the SUP would stay in existence regardless. And I just assume that if it were to be a pandemic, that, they would do online school and that, so the school would still use.
Or the alternative is to take out the condition. And then there's no mitigation, there's no misunderstanding about it at all.
Or make it 2 years.
Yeah. I'm up for 2 years, that works just as fine. But everybody's correct about the pandemic or something like that happening. It seems ridiculous to make them go through the entire process because they put money down for it. They take your time up for it. They come in here with us, and then they go to the board on top of it, and to make them go back through I'm sorry. I'd like to see 2 years then. Is that a problem? Is there anybody that straw vote here?
Problem on my part.
Is that acceptable to the applicant? She's nodding her head, she says. Okay, so we're going to change the condition to 2 years?
Great.
Any other questions for Ms. Costello? Thank you very much. At this point, I would like to open the public hearing, and if anybody would like to speak on this application, please come up and state your name and address. Seeing and hearing none, were there any questions for the applicant? So, seeing and hearing none, I will close the public hearing and open it up for discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that the Planning Commission recommend to the board approval of SUP 24-002, 4871 Longhill Road, Williamsburg Montessori School, with the conditions and the modification to condition 6 to 2 years as opposed to 1 year.
Everybody in agreement with that? So, Ms. Istanis, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Haldeman,
Aye.
Mr. Polster,
Aye.
Mr. Rogers, Mr. Everson,
Aye.
Mr. O'Connor.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Our next two cases this evening, I think we can hear them together and then have two votes on that. That would be AFD-24-0003, 9812 Old Stage Road, Barnes Swamp, AFD Withdrawal, and SUP-24-0021, Niceland Farm Event Venue and Tourist Home. Ms. Reisinger, good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the Commission. Mr. Stephen Romeo of VHB Inc. has applied on behalf of Mr. David Nice for a special use permit to operate an event facility and tourist home at 9812 and 9908 Old Stage Road. The area for this project is 14.81 acres in size and currently zoned A1 General Agricultural, designated rural lands on the 2045 Comprehensive Plan, and located outside the primary service area. The 9812 Old Stage Road property is currently within the Barn Swamp AFD, and the project area must be withdrawn from the AFD to allow the operation of these specially permitted uses. A request to withdraw the project acreage from the AFD was submitted in May of this year. Withdrawal requests outside of the renewal period are considered with the criteria listed in the Board of Supervisors policy governing the withdrawal of properties from AFDs. Upon a review of the application against the criteria listed in the policy, staff finds that this application would not cause a disruption to the AFD and that the proposed land use would be compatible with the rural lands designation. However, staff finds this proposal is not caused by an unforeseen change in circumstances, and the request would not serve a public purpose. At the July 18th AFD Advisory Committee meeting, the AFD Advisory Committee recommended approval of this withdrawal request by a vote of 8-1. Since the request does not meet all of the criteria listed in the board's withdrawal policy, staff cannot support the withdrawal and recommends the Planning Commission recommend denial of the AFD withdrawal request to the Board of Supervisors. The proposed event facility is envisioned to include wedding and corporate events with a frequency of 1 event per day and no more than 3 events per week, with a maximum of 360 attendees. The event venue would utilize an existing barn, which has been renovated, as well as outdoor areas, including a performance stage, flexible open space, an orchard, a farm pond with a pedestrian bridge, a repurposed grain silo, a dedicated location for food trucks, and attendee parking. Access to the venue is proposed from Fire Tower Road, which is a local road. Water and sewer are to be provided by individual well and septic facilities. The A1 zoning district considers event facilities as places of public assembly used primarily as event facilities, which are subject to performance standards in the zoning ordinance. SCPs are required for such event facilities which do not meet all of the performance standards. While the proposal meets some standards, including a minimum area of 10 acres, a 150-foot wide setback from the Old Stage Road Community Character Corridor, a 75-foot wide setback from adjacent properties, maintaining existing vegetation in these setbacks, and locating outdoor amplified sound or music at least 100 feet from adjacent properties. This proposal requires an SCP because the proposed maximum number of attendees exceeds 300. The venue would take access from a local road instead of a major road, and the proposed permanent structures and improvements are located on soils which are considered to be prime farmland and farmland of statewide importance by the USDA. While the project area includes prime farmland and farmland of statewide importance, this area of the property was proposed to utilize the existing structures on the property so that the remaining area of the property can continue to be used agriculturally. The 9908 Old Stage Road property consists of existing mature vegetation, providing a natural buffer of 75 to 80 feet in width along Old Stage Road. Staff has proposed condition number 5 to ensure the preservation of this buffer along the project area. Landscaping requirements along Fire Tower Road and internal to the site will be reviewed during the site plan process. Proposed stormwater management on the property includes the use of pervious grass pavers in the parking areas, vegetated filter strips, and grading the property to direct runoff to the proposed farm pond and natural drainage channels. The Stormwater and Resource Protection Division proposed conditions 8 through 12 which include requiring that the stormwater water quality treatment is provided on site. Given that the 14.81 acres of the property proposed for the event venue, the 110 parking spaces to be provided, and the applicant's anticipation of the renovated barn having a maximum occupancy of 360 people, staff finds a maximum occupancy of 360 attendees would be reasonably accommodated at the venue, and has proposed condition number 2 to set the maximum occupancy of the venue to 360 attendees, which includes event staff, caterers, photographers, and vendors. The application indicates that the proposed event venue would generate 90 peak hour trips from the site and 94 peak hour trips to the site. Arrival and departure times for events are anticipated to be separated by more than 1 hour, meaning that the use would not exceed 100 peak hour trips. The applicant has proposed to widen Fire Tower Road to 24 feet in width to accommodate two-way traffic to the proposed entrance to the venue. Condition number 4 is proposed to ensure this is included within the site plan for the development. Staff finds that the proposed event venue would be generally consistent with the rural lands development standards, given that the proposal is a compatible rural economic development use, preserves the natural appearance of the property, and minimizes entrances to the property. The application also includes a request to operate the existing single-family residence as a tourist home, both in conjunction with and separate from the event venue. The residence takes access from Old Stage Road, which is a minor arterial road, and provides parking areas sufficient for 4 vehicles. As the residence includes 3 bedrooms, staff has proposed condition number 11 to set the maximum occupants to 6. In compliance with the comprehensive plan's guidance for short-term rentals, the property is designated rural lands, not located internal to an existing platted subdivision, and takes access from a major road. However, the owner will not live and reside on the property during the course of the rental. While the tourist home does not fully meet the comprehensive plan's guidance, staff finds the location would be appropriate for a tourist home, and its unique situation of being included within the master plan for the event venue would mitigate potential impacts. Overall, staff finds the proposal to be compatible with surrounding development and generally consistent with the 2045 comprehensive plan and zoning ordinance. Staff recommends the Planning Commission recommend approval of the application to the Board of Supervisors. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have at this time, and Mr. Romeo and Mr. Nice are also in attendance. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Ms. Reisinger? Mr. Everson?
On condition number 5, it talks about having a buffer along Fire Tower Road. What do you envision for that? Because I went out there and it's a beautiful setting. Are you gonna recommend having a bunch of stuff so you can't see anything?
So condition number 5 does not provide for a buffer along Fire Tower Road, but rather it is saying that the 9908 Old Stage Road property, which is along the length with Old Stage Road, from the intersection at Old Stage Road up to the north end of the project site.
Oh, okay.
That's the distance that we're looking to
I get
project.
it. I misread. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Any other questions? Can you clarify for me, in one of the emails I was reviewing this afternoon, if it's not withdrawn from the AFD, there's still the ability to have a by right use if it supports agritourism? Is that what I understood from that email?
That's correct. The AFDs restrict the issuance of an SCP for a commercial use, which is why the AFD withdrawal is necessary. If they were able to propose a facility that meets all the performance standards or otherwise operates solely for agritourism events, then that would be able to proceed without the SCP or the withdrawal.
And then, I told Ms. Parrish I was going to pick on her tonight, but I guess my question is, what becomes the enforcement mechanism to understand if an event is supporting agritourism versus just a wedding event? I mean, we don't ask them to submit a report that says we had 5 weddings or something like that.
This would cover it all. I mean, if the SUP were granted, they could have something that supports agritourism, or they could have something that is just strictly a wedding or corporate event or so
Right.
forth.
But if the SUP wasn't, I mean, we would just be relying on somebody to report or dumb luck that, somebody went to an event that wasn't agritourism. So,
It's a fine line from from an enforcement mechanism, but yes, it would be based on a complaint basis or any other additional information that would have been presented to staff. Then we would investigate it, work with the property owner, and take it from there.
thank you.
Let me do a follow-up with you, please. What is the definition of an agritourism event?
Usually, again, it's always an interpretation matter with state code and with the county ordinances. But if someone had an event of picking sunflowers out there, or people were coming to there to basically look at the farm animals or do a hayride or something along those lines, similar to what the lavender farm would be. So anything that's there for you to pick or interact with farm animals or anything like that would fall under the agritourism.
Thank you. Any other?
I think you could argue, though, that setting your wedding in that venue is because you want your guests to come and experience agritourism.
Can be. I believe that the AG issued an opinion that event facilities that are primarily used for weddings is not part of the agritourism. I believe that that's correct. Don't quote me on that, but we kind of battled with that back and forth with a wedding venue on an agritourism setting. But based on that research from the AG is that was not included. However, a tourist home is. So if all this were taken away and Mr. Nice just wanted to rent that as a tourist home to enjoy the farmland itself, that could be done by right, regardless of our ordinance.
Any other questions?
I did have one question about the district and the withdrawals. So, and I read what I thought were the dates, but let's say the SUP and the withdrawal were not supported, the early one. Then when physically is it that I thought I read they give notice, but when would they actually be able to withdraw, whether planning commission said anything or not?
Sure. So the next renewal will be in 2026, and in that process, around May is when staff will send letters to all of the properties which are in the AFDs and then also adjacent properties. And that will inform the owners that they have the opportunity to request to withdraw their property, and that is by right. That would be, included within the materials for that case, and they'd be removed from the AFD at that point for whatever portion of the property they request to withdraw.
2 years. That's
Right.
sound like.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing. And the first speaker card I have this evening is Mr. Nice. Sure, I'll let Mr. Romeo go. So, good evening, Mr. Romeo.
Good evening, Honorable Chair, members of the Planning Commission. I'm Steve Romeo. I reside at 115 Tides Run, Yorktown. My business practices out of 351 McLaws Circle, right around the corner from here in the Bush Corporate Center. Is it okay if how do I drive the, we have a PowerPoint that I want to take you through, just to show you the magnitude of this is pretty much the finished product of what Mr. Nice has been doing, and as you can see, it's The inside is finished very nicely. The exterior is also finished very nicely. This is consistent with the quality of work that Mr. Nice has been known for many, many, many years. I think I've been working with David for 30 plus years. The barn is a two-story structure. It'll have capacity for guests downstairs and upstairs. This is a shot looking from Fire Tower Road into the site. There's the fire tower. Master plan. I thought we had the video in here, but we don't. I'm sorry.
Four.
It's the fourth slide. As you can tell, I'm not technologically too savvy. And as Mr. Everson noted, it is a beautiful piece of property, quite remarkable to have property like this preserved in its agricultural state, and to be able to use it for events that are contemplated. So from the discussion, from the questions that you were asking staff, and staff did a great job, and we've had a great time working with them, helping us get to this process. One of the important facets with this, and the SUP kind of drives it, is the access. We believe it's safer to access the event venue from Fire Tower Road rather than off of Croker Road because of it's not Croker Road, Old Stage Road. Thank you, David. Simply because of the speed limit on Old Stage Road. I believe it's posted at 50 miles an hour. I can tell you, as a father who had a son who got married at a venue up in New Kent that was on a 50-plus mile an hour road, it wasn't a lot of fun for guests to pretty much hammer on the brakes and turn in, or have to make a U-turn to come into the event. Fire Tower Road's already signed. It's a 25 mile an hour road, and it'll be a much safer means of ingress, egress to this venue. And I believe, as most of you understand from the code, most of what Mr. Nice wants to do is by right. I mean, if he lowered the occupancy to under 300, that trigger wouldn't be tripped. If he accessed the property off of Old Stage Road, that trigger wouldn't have been tripped. But the right thing to do is to go through this process and have a safe venue that works for everybody. I'll answer any questions. I'll do my best to answer any questions that you may have at this time.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Romeo?
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Mr. Nice? I don't know that he made any mistakes, but
It's not on Croker Road. I'm David Nice, and I live at 4571 Ware Creek Road
in the Stonehouse District. Our family was privileged to purchase this property, Deborah, how many years ago now? 4 or 5 years ago? And it was just a big old fat mess when we bought it. I thought I had included a slide with Steve that showed the barn before we ever started. And there was a moment there that I probably should have just pushed it down. It was barely hanging on. And it's been one of those projects that's been a labor of love, really. Once we started renovating the barn, as a contractor, most of you know him, it just couldn't seem to quit. So once we got started with it, then the vision came into place and we really turned it into something beautiful. Before we started this project, I had Tom Coghill, the building inspector, come out, say, Tom, look, this is what I'm getting ready to do with this barn. He said, David, you're an operating farm, you're exempt from permitting and building inspections and those kind of things. So we had Tom's blessing to proceed without getting building permits and those type of things. But I can tell you that everything in that barn is built to the highest standard that we could possibly do. We spent a lot of resources fixing this up. So we're very excited about it. The vision we had for this barn when we originally purchased the property was music. Our family they're all very musical, and we've had a couple private parties in there. In fact, for my 70th birthday, I was surprised with all my grandkids putting on a little concert up there. It was fabulous. But our heart was to have music, which we would really like to do. We love Christian music and old gospel music and any kind of music, really, but our heart is a passion to have music there. We have not rented the house as an Airbnb. We didn't want to as a family. And the only really reason we're kind of including that was Christy's suggestion, if we do have weddings there, and I'm sure we probably will because we've spent a lot of dollars here. So to recoup some of those dollars, the weddings are probably the best way to do it. Would be for the bride to stay in the wedding, to stay in that house that night or something like that. We don't really envision the farmhouse being used by the general public per se outside of something that's not tied to the event venue. So there really wouldn't be very much use of the farmhouse by the general public unless it's tied to this event. So that's kind of where we're at. I certainly encourage all of you folks to come out. We spent a lot of passion cleaning up this farm. We've cleaned all the hedgerows. We've made it beautiful. If I must say so myself, I think Mr. Iverson, maybe you've been out there. It's my brothers. We still have family farms in Charles City, several, and my brother's a fabulous farmer, and he comes down and helps me, pretty much does it. He lets me do a few things, but we rotate crops between corn and soybeans, wheat, and I put a hay field in the back that I'd like to have some cattle with back in the day at some point. But speaking of the agritourism, I don't fully understand that distinction either, but on the site plan that Steve, one of the site plans I have, we actually have a lavender field, and I mean, we kind of envision some things out there that people, when they do come out there, because a farm is so unique in today's society, that we will have some of those things going forward. A lavender field or a pumpkin field or something that the kids and folks can use. I built a little seating berm behind the grain bin. This picture doesn't show the grain bin. We tore an old grain bin down from my dad's farm in Charles City and just recently erected it. And it really makes the farm look like a farm. I love it. So it's back up. But we have a little berm behind that where you can sit on that outside to listen to music or let the kids run up and down it or whatever they want to do. So that's kind of our heart. We don't necessarily, when I approached Christy about this, who's worked with us for years, and thank you, she said, David, let's just go ahead and go through the SUP process and clean the whole thing up. I could have kind of by right come in off of Old Stage Road and just put in a new road, but that made no sense to us. We don't want to do that. So that's what sort of started triggering all of this. And then Ms. Parrish said, look, just include the house in it too, if y'all want to put the bride in there. So that's what we're trying to do. We're kind of almost finished construction on the barn, with the exception of some loose ends. We're putting in roads. We'll start the pond maybe in the fall. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at. But before we ever started, we get people, now that folks know the barn is there because it's pretty visible, we get calls every day to have weddings, and of course, we're just not ready, and we won't be ready until all this gets approved, and we're legal with the county how we're supposed to be, so that's where we're at. We hope that all this goes through, and then maybe we could start using the facility in earnest, probably in the spring, something like that. So that's kind of our timetable. The AFD withdrawal kind of caught me by surprise. I didn't know we had to do that. I had offered to that commission, look, if it's a matter of us paying the taxes on that piece you're pulling out, that's not a problem. It's just one of those things that got caught between it came up during the process. So we tried to minimize the acreage we took out just to facilitate this operation. So we would like to leave the rest of the farm in AFD. We have no intentions of a family ever, Brandon, you listening, of developing this farm when I'm gone. So we have no intentions of developing the farm whatsoever. So that's where we're at.
Any questions for Mr. Nice?
I just say it's beautiful. I went out there. I was wow. My granddaughter's getting married soon, and it's too bad you're not ready.
Thank you, Mr. Nice. Appreciate it. My last speaker card this evening is Sharon Seltzer.
You need to restart the clock.
Sorry?
You need to restart the clock? Okay. My name is Sharon Seltzer. I live at 9804 Fire Tower Road. So right up there, I'm the little house right across from the proposed venue. And I want to say that I'm not opposed to this becoming an entertainment and wedding venue, but I have questions and concerns, seeing as I am right across the street from this. And Fire Tower Road is a residential road, single-family homes, and it's a 30-mile-an-hour road. And I'm concerned about the level of traffic that's going to be coming in that driveway. You can see is right there across from our house. I'm concerned. When I read the information on the traffic study, it said 94 peak hour vehicle trips, which is to me very dangerously close to the 100 peak hour vehicle trips that would require a traffic impact analysis. And so I really feel like this needs to be looked at a little bit further, especially considering that we do have dream catchers down the road from us, and we do get quite a bit of traffic from that when they have events and activities. I think that we should consider that, especially with the fact that we have so many accidents on Old Stage Road. We had a fatality coming out of Stonehouse not too long ago, maybe a month and a half ago. And you figure most of these people are not going to be used to driving on county roads, and it's dark out here. And so I feel like more attention needs to be put in this area if that's really the best option, all that traffic coming in and out of Fire Tower Road. And then, of course, I do have questions about how late the music can go, if we can expect that we'll hear it, sitting out on our patio. Light pollution. I thought that when I read, I thought there was going to be some kind of buffer put in between the venue and Fire Tower Road, but I heard differently tonight. So I'm concerned, when all these cars are leaving late at night and all the lights and all of that, like what that's going to mean for us on our residential road. And so those are mainly my questions for the residents that live there. What does this mean for us? And so that's really all I had.
Thank you, Ms. Seltzer. Appreciate it. Is there anybody else that wishes to speak on this application? Seeing and hearing none, I will close the public hearing and open it up for discussion.
I'm just confused about the definition of agritourism as Mr. Nice is on that, especially since there's going to be an orchard with a lake in the back there. And so I mean, you know, they're going to pick apples, they're going to do some other things, but it's a wonderful place to have this. And as having watched with another planning commissioner, the execution of the rural economic study, which hasn't really taken place within the county, this to me seems a step in the right direction to try to do something to develop agribusiness within the county, especially with a family that's been dedicated to this for a number of years for that. I really have to say that I am glad that they're not going to have the entry on Old Stage Road. Everybody does know about that traffic problem on there. And all I can say to you is that the growth in Stonehouse with the last 3 developments have triggered a stoplight at that entrance into Stonehouse. So you're going to see that probably within the next couple of years, as well as another one coming off of 64 to mitigate the issue of that traffic, especially with everybody trying to get down onto the single road piece or trying to accelerate from Old Town to beat the traffic in there. So I do share that. I will say, though, that if you take a look at the conditions, there is a condition in there for the lighting for that pollution, and the noise pieces are there. So it's something that the staff does on a regular basis in terms of looking out for those things. So the idea that we're going to have the entry into the facility off of the fire tower as opposed to the old stage, to me, makes a lot of sense, especially for the traffic and people coming out of the event late at night. The fact that they're going to maintain that buffer on Old Stage, which was an issue that we've had here during the last comp plan, is a great benefit. But I think the other thing that they've been smart about is to widen the road, because it is a narrow road, and I've taken that road all the way back to Dreamcatchers, and I understand that. So the idea that they've mitigated that by widening that road so that it actually is a 2-lane highway is a great piece. And frankly, people coming out of the venue and having to be there to go left or right, to me, makes much more sense from a safety perspective. For all those reasons, I intend to support this application to the board.
Mr. Polster? Any other discussion?
Clarification, so we're voting on the withdrawal and the approval of the tourist home
Separately.
and the approval of the event venue, is that correct? All in one vote?
No, we do separate votes.
Oh, okay.
One for the AFD withdrawal and one for the SUP.
Gotcha.
So,
Yeah, it's a beautiful project. As Mr. Polster said, it supports the local farm economy, which I think is important. Be a fiscal plus for the county, which is nice. A few jobs during events and so forth never hurts. I understand Ms. Selcher's point about the increased traffic, and particularly late at night, headlights coming out. It looks like the road's a little off-centered from that house, but still, that's an issue. I would like to support the event venue and the tourist home both, but I'm having a real problem with the AFD withdrawal. You know, we have a policy, and it's pretty clear, and it's voluntary, and that's what I'm struggling with. So,
thank you, Mr. Haldeman. Mr. Rogers?
I think I'm probably piggybacking, but, and I know each case is unique, but I've been to numerous wedding events out at Upper Shirley, for instance, and a couple more out in Providence Forge. And I think you'll find your out-of-town guests and all don't stay late at those wedding venues. They love the venues, but I don't see them going far into the night. And when you don't have a lot of hotels right nearby. So I think I think for the people who live nearby, you'll be pleasantly surprised, I think, by how those shake out. I think it's a great reuse, you know, of the barn. It preserves everything we say we're trying to preserve in our comprehensive plan. And so I intend to support the thing. I understand the withdrawal. I'm all about that too, but it looks like a withdrawal in name only, because to me the structures are, other than more attractive structures that are coming, they're there. So I don't see it as quite the same as you withdrawing the acres and then disturbing everything, or clear cutting. It's more like you're withdrawing the acres to provide what I would consider an agritourism use within the AFD. That's me.
To follow up on that point, I feel as a public purpose and the comprehensive plan for this agribusiness, et cetera, I don't understand why the public purpose is that government can do what it wants, but if you want to make money on your property, that somehow or other you have to go through a bunch of hurdles. I don't get that myself. But it seems to me this is a public purpose in terms of the agribusiness we've been talking about. It's a beautiful site. And Mrs. Stelter, I think, when I came out of the property, even at night, I think the headlights would not be going into your house because it's offset, I think, just enough. And I'm going to support this. I think this is a tremendous. I was really shocked when I went up there. It's absolutely beautiful site. You know, I don't know what I was expecting, but I got out there. I said, "Wow!" And I drove up. I said, you know, talked to the irrigation guy. He says, "Oh, I think we're almost done." And I said, "Well, that's good because it looks nice." I'm all in favor of this.
Thank you, Mr. Everson. For me personally, I subscribe to Mr. Haldeman's viewpoint on, you know, I typically subscribe to Mr. Haldeman's viewpoint on AFDs and early withdrawals, and I would probably be adamantly opposed to the AFD withdrawal if it was for the entire parcel. But in this case, we're only asking for the 15, you know, the 14.81 acres for the withdrawal. The rest will remain in an AFD and an agricultural use. You know, I think that supports a lot of the pieces that we've been talking about lately, from the comp plan to setbacks and these rural land preservations and these types of uses. And ultimately, I think at the end of the day, if we didn't withdraw it from the AFD and put the SUP in place, we're ultimately going to end up with a lot of the same uses and really something that is, in my mind, unenforceable, because we'd be, you know, staff would be splitting hairs trying to figure out if there was an event there, did they go out and pick apples off of a tree, right? I mean, I think we'd be left splitting hairs on that. So, you know, I think what we're seeing is a great opportunity to drive some uses in here that ascribe to be an agritourism use and supports the open spaces that we're trying to preserve in this part of the county for sure. So I will support the withdrawal from the AFD and the SUP as well. So, Mr. Polster?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that the Planning Commission recommend to the board on AFD 24-0003 9812 Old Stage Road, Barn Swamp, AFD withdrawal.
So there's a motion to approve. So a yes vote is to withdraw from the AFD. Ms. Istanis?
Mr. Haldeman?
Aye.
Mr. Polster?
Aye.
Mr. Rogers?
Aye.
Mr. Everson?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Ms. Polster?
I'd like to make a motion that the Planning Commission recommend to the board on special use permit 24-0021 Niceland Farm event venue and tourist home with the conditions.
So there is a motion to approve. Will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Haldeman?
Aye.
Mr. Polster?
Aye.
Mr. Rogers?
Aye.
Mr. Everson? Aye. Mr. O'Connor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for coming out tonight. I appreciate it. We don't have any planning commission considerations, and we are on to the planning director's report. So, Ms. Istanis?
I have nothing additional to add to the report in your packet. If you have questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Any questions for Ms. Istanis?
I just have one quick one. I was really surprised with your reply to Mr. Haldeman on the policy committee meetings that we probably wouldn't have any for the rest of the year. And I'm just kind of wondering, how is that or what is going on?
I don't think I can answer that without chatting with Paul, if you don't mind.
Sure.
He may have something in mind that I'm just not aware of at this time, so I can follow up with an email if that's all right to the group.
Well, to the group, yeah, that would be appreciated, because I remember that they weren't going to do any new type of things till October, and then here's where we are. You know, so, okay, yes, I would appreciate that.
Okay, and then we did receive an application for DRC for the October 23rd meeting. And I believe it will be going forward, so.
Great, thank you very much. Any other questions for Ms. Istenis? And we are on to Planning Commission discussion and requests. Anything from the team? Mr. May has October, so he wasn't able to join us tonight, so we'll let him have fun with the Board of Supervisors next week. And with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn to our November meeting.
So move.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you.